What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another fight breakdown. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. All right, definitely hit the thumbs up, smash that like button for me, and also share the video on your social media platforms. Okay, we got a huge fight this weekend. We have a bunch of fights this weekend, but we have a huge fight this weekend, a historical fight this weekend between two undisputed champions, two actively undisputed champions. Jermell Charlo, undisputed at 154. He's going to be moving up two weight divisions to fight Canelo Alvarez at 168, who Canelo is currently the undisputed champion at 168. All right, so it's a huge fight. I just love how we're getting these undisputed fighters, and now we're getting undisputed fighters facing off against each other. So I love it. This is going to be on Showtime pay-per-view on Saturday night, and I will be covering the fight. I will also be covering the Jai Opetaia fight against Jordan Thompson. And if the Otto Wallin fight is going to be broadcasted against Murat Gassiev, if that fight is going to be showing somewhere, I will cover that fight as well. But be on the lookout for more breakdowns. All right, I have this breakdown. I also have the other breakdowns on the undercards. You got Erickson Lubin against Jesus Ramos. That fight is going out. That's going to be on the undercard. You have Ugas against Barrios. That's also on the undercard. Do a breakdown for those two fights, and also on those other fights that I just named. Check out. It's going to be breakdowns all week. All week. All I'm giving you are breakdowns this entire week leading up to Saturday, and I will be here all day Saturday just covering boxing. All right, so please, again, subscribe to the channel so you'll be getting the notifications. All right, let's talk about this fight, man. I did a mini breakdown last week, which was basically me talking about the fight overall and everything leading into the fight. This breakdown here, we're going to go more in depth on what these fighters need to do in order to win, and then at the end I will give you my final prediction on this fight. All right. Let's start out with talking about Jermell Charlo. He's moving up to 168. All right. And, he's currently at 154. He was the undisputed champion. Okay. And he's had a little layoff. Okay. He had an injury. He was supposed to be defending the title against Tim Tszyu. He had like some sort of hand injury, but he has not been in the ring in over a year, where he fought Brian Castano in a rematch. Okay, a very controversial first fight that they had. A lot of people felt that Castano won the first fight, and then he had a rematch where he stopped Brian Castano in a rematch, right? So he made undisputed then, and now he's going up in weight, okay? Jermell Charlo, man, I mean, this is my guy, man. And look, I'm a Jermell Charlo fan, but that's my guy. Been following him for most of his pro career. He's given me interviews on the channel. He gave me one of my first interviews when I started this channel. He's given me, him and his brother giving me interviews in the past. Those are my guys. I'm always going to root for my guys. But just to make it clear, this is going to be a very fair and unbiased breakdown of the fight. Okay? I want him to win, but I'm going to tell you how I think the fight is going to go and be fair. Okay? Jermell. Now, a lot of talk surrounding this fight is about the weight, and I think a lot of content creators and a lot of analysts and, they talk about the weight so much, and a lot of people ignore, even the fans, based on the comments that I read on social media or even underneath my videos. A lot of people talk too much about the weight, I think in certain cases like this, the weight could be a factor, especially when a guy is moving up two weight classes in order to fight one of the best fighters in the world. All right. So I think weight could be a factor, but Jermell naturally may walk around a little bit heavier than Canelo Alvarez. But when it comes to the weight, you got to understand that Jermell started his career as a welterweight. He's only fought at welterweight and 154. He has not fought at 160. He has not fought at 168. So regardless of what he walk around as, he is not bigger than any of the recent opponents that Canelo has faced. All of these guys have started at 160 or 168 or even heavier than that. And they've been super middleweights or light heavyweights their entire career. You know what I mean? So I know people are talking a lot about the weight that Jermell was bigger than Canelo and all of this. Yeah, everybody was bigger than Canelo. Plant was bigger than Canelo. Bivol, Kovalev, all of these guys, Ryder, all of these guys had careers at heavier weight divisions. Okay, so you got to understand that Canelo may not walk around heavier than Charlo, but he's used to being and fighting at that weight division, where Charlo, it's a test for him, it's a challenge for him, because he's moving up and he's never fought at a heavier weight before. So we don't know how durable he is at this new weight, and we don't know, is he going to have speed issues carrying that weight? Is he going to have the same type of endurance that he's had in previous fights? These are all the things that you have to think about going to a fight like this, because we don't know. We've never seen it before. You know what I mean? So with all of that being said, the weight thing, a lot of people are talking about a weight. It could be good for Charlo, but it could be bad as well. Is he going to perform the same way? He might perform better because he doesn't have to worry about being drained. But how long can he perform at an elite level against an elite fighter? In this fight, Canelo is leagues above everybody he's faced up to this point, and he's fought at a bigger weight. So we just have to wait and see how this is going to play out on Saturday night. Weight could be a factor, or it may not be a factor. It might just be all about the talent and the skills. And this is what we're going to go to when we do this breakdown. We're going to talk about what they actually do in the ring, and not just talk about size this, size that, So anyway, Jermell Charlo, man. When I think of Charlo, powerful. I'm talking about the Derrick James version of Jermell Charlo. Powerful. One punch knockout power. He's been stopping everybody since he's went over the Derrick James before, when he was at 154, fighting guys like Gabe Rosado and Demetrius Hopkins years ago. And all of these fights that were more competitive, it was based on Charlo being a mover, fighting on his back foot, working behind the jab, trying to outbox his opponents. Now, he's always been fast. He's always been very athletic. He's always been explosive, but he was never a KO artist. He was never that until he got with Derrick. Once he got with Derrick, it took him a couple of fights to adapt to that new style with Derrick. You know what I mean? We saw his John Jackson fight where he struggled in the fight early, but he got the KO. There was fights where he struggled a little bit. Tony Harrison, I think there was a point where he started getting the KOs, but I felt that he was falling in love with his power a little bit. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is I thought he was abandoning some of his boxing ability and being less technically sound and relying solely off his power. So we saw that in the Tony Harrison both fights. Even though he won the rematch, he was still struggling in that rematch because Tony is he's a really good boxer. You know what I mean? And he was able to get the stoppage in the rematch. The first fight was very close, very debatable. I was there. I remember seeing it live, and I remember being in the arena. A lot of people thought it could go either way. But Jermell Charlo has changed, and when he went in for Castano, I think a lot of that fight, that version and the way he fought that fight, he was counting on the knockout. He was waiting to land a big punch to knock out Castano. And the thing is, I thought he gave up more rounds, but I think the rounds where there were points in that fight where he was able to hurt Castano, and I think he was relying on a knockout, but Castano ate many of the punches in that first round, and first fight, and it was very debatable. It was close, but Castano ended up being a draw. Now in the rematch, I thought the rematch with Jermell Charlo was very, very close. I'm sorry, it was his best performance. I saw a lot of what I used to see from him mixed with the newer version of him, and I think he was more calculated in that rematch. I think as far as discipline, yeah, there was moments where he was still on the ropes, still looking to lure Castano in with that left hook. You know what I mean? There were points in that fight where I still thought that, he was a little sloppy or whatever, but for the most part in that fight, he fought a way better fight in that rematch, and that was his last fight. So when I think of Jermell Charlo, I think of a guy that moves extremely well. A lot of his defense relies on his legs. You know what I mean? I don't think he's a guy that's going to sit in the pocket and try to roll punches and stuff like that. He is fighting out of a high guard most of the time, especially in between the exchanges. And he's a guy that likes to move and get out of the way and control distance and work behind the jab. And I love the jab in the rematch because we saw more feints. We saw more jabs. We saw him control distance better, stay out of range. Castano was a shorter guy, just like Canelo. Shorter guy, shorter reach. Castano had to close the gap to get in. But Charlo, for the most part, did a better job in that rematch in controlling distance and working behind the jabs and use it in setting up the power shot, setting up the right hand, setting up the left hook, countering Castano's right hand with the left hook. You know what I mean? So I saw a more improved and more disciplined and calculated Jermell Charlo in that fight. So Jermell is a type of guy that likes to move, use the jab, but he's very explosive and he likes to throw his combination. So he'll step in, throw the right hand, throw the left hook, throw bombs. He's all bombs, and I think from an action standpoint, this might be the most action-packed Canelo fight that we've got since the Triple G rematch because of the styles. Jermell's going to come at you, especially if he feels trapped. When Jermell feels like he has nowhere to go, he's going to throw bombs. He's going to throw combinations. He's going to come straight at you. And it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing because Jermell, one thing about Jermell I'm going to name a few weaknesses of Jermell is that sometimes when he throws the left hook, his right hand is not up, and you saw him get clipped a couple times by Castano in those fights that he had because he wasn't keeping his hands up, the other free hand up while he was throwing those power shots, Another thing is too, he has to set up the jab. He has to use the jab, continue to use the jab. Sometimes he leads with power shots from far out way too much. You know what I mean? And against those lower level fighters, it worked for some of you fighting Charles Hatley or some of those lower level guys. It worked out for him. But you're facing Canelo and you're facing a guy that is a hell of a lot more durable than an experience than those guys you faced before. Even Castano, who was probably arguably the best fighter he's fought up to this point, I thought he was going into both fights. I thought Castano was better than Tony Harrison. I thought he would be more challenging than Tony Harrison. I know Tony Harrison is defensively very, very good, a very good boxer, but he fades. And when he fades, the defense fades with him, and he becomes a lot more easier to hit, and he's not the most durable fighter. So Canelo, very durable. But yeah, going back to Charlo, what Charlo needs to do, in my opinion, definitely try his best to stay off the ropes. I watched a lot of the Plant fight with Canelo, and I felt like Plant had similarities to Charlo. They don't fight exactly the same way, but Plant is a very good mover. He's a very good defensive fighter. He works behind his jab. I think Plant actually has a better jab. But Plant he's not as explosive as Charlo. He doesn't hit as hard as Charlo. And that's another thing when we talk about power, because Charlo's power was crazy at 154. Is it going to be crazy at 168 against one of the best fighters in the world and probably resume-wise the best fighter in this generation, this current generation? Is it going to be that effective right now when you're moving up 2 divisions to fight him? I don't know. Okay, so when we talk about power, we got to be really careful, when it comes to that, Another thing about the jab with Charlo, long range, he's solid, you know what I mean? But sometimes he throws jabs a little too close to the shorter fighters with the less reach. And he'll throw a jab, throws it kind of lazy, drops it, and then he's open for a right hand counter over the top of that jab. So he has to be cautious and he has to keep moving. He can't do that trick with Castano that he did with Castano against Canelo, because Canelo wants you on the ropes because he wants to punish you. Not every shot is to the head. A lot of the shots are to the body, around the arms. He likes to wear you down. So even if you're doing a good job in maintaining distance, it's like Canelo is one of the more calculated pressure fighters. You know what I mean? And he makes his punches count more effectively than a Brian Castano, who would throw 4 or 5 punch combinations at a time. Canelo is like a 2, 3 punch combination at the most. You know what I mean? So Charlo needs to keep moving. Needs to pick spots where he's going to try to ambush Canelo. Yes, use that power. Make Canelo weary. Make Canelo feel your power. Don't make him feel like he can just walk through you, because that would be a problem. Canelo's going to be fighting out of high guard. So use that opportunity like Bevo did, like Floyd did back in the day, to land those jabs to the body. Throw those right hands. I saw more right hands from Charlo in the Castano rematch that I've seen in other recent fights from him. You know what I'm saying? So you want to slow down Canelo. His old coach, not I can't think of his name right now. Before Derrick James said in a recent interview, he needs to go to the body a little bit more. You want to slow down Canelo. Canelo has shown that he's been very inconsistent when it comes to stamina. So you want to slow the guy down so he could slow down in the later half of the fight, so you can try to take over, if you are down in the earlier rounds. You know what I mean? But for the most part, Charlo, keep your backs off the rope. Keep your back off the ropes. Keep moving, use that jab feint, and I'm talking in the realm of what I've seen him do. I'm not saying he can't do more new things here, but some of the new things that I would like to see from Charlo is change the speed of the jab, probe a little bit more. You know what I mean? I want him to do some of the things that I've seen Plant do and other fighters do, with their lead hand. I haven't seen Charlo do much of that, so I don't know if he's going to try to do that in this fight here. But keeping distance is a key thing. And guys with good jabs are always a problem for Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people say slick fighters. Charlo's not slick. He's not really slick. I wouldn't define him as slick. But use the jab, double it, triple it. Canelo, one weakness of Canelo is Canelo sometimes he gets hits with jabs on the way in and on the way out as well. He get hit with jabs on the way out sometimes. So the jab is a key to this fight. And just do not shorten the combinations. Don't throw too many punches. Don't get into a slugfest for Canelo, because Canelo, shorter guy, you guys got good hooks. You got a crazy left hook. Canelo is known for his left hook. Just be careful. Keep that right hand up when you're hooking. And, just don't overdo it. That's all I got to really say about Jermell Charlo. Canelo Alvarez, man. Canelo has had it rough recently, he had a great run at 168, became undisputed, beat Plant, beat Saunders, beat Smith, became undisputed in 11 months. It was great. It was phenomenal. But he's had it rough since then. He fought Dimitri Bivol, went up to 175. I feel like he got dominated on the cards. All right. I don't think I gave Canelo any more than 3 rounds in that fight. Regardless of what the judges had it, I think the judges had it closer. I think they gave Canelo 5 rounds. But I thought it was a clear, dominant boxing out. He got outboxed and outworked. All right. But when you saw him against Triple G and John Ryder, Canelo clearly won the fight. I mean, both of those fights he clearly won. I think the problem with those fights is that Canelo slowed down in the second half of those fights, or not even the second, but I want to say in the fourth quarter of those fights. And I think a lot of it has to do with, some people will say, and I brought this up a few times, some people are going to say it's because Canelo's burning out. He's fought at a high level for many years. He's been fighting as a pro for 18 years now. I know they're both the same age. They're both 33. I forgot to bring that up earlier. They're both the same age. They're both 33 years old. Canelo has fought many more professional fights, obviously, but they're both 33, and Canelo's been fighting for a long time, so maybe he's burned out. A lot of people insinuate that he's burned out. I think it's more of him being less calculated in his most recent fights. I think he's been pushing heavy on a knockout, and I think he's abandoned some of his defense and some of his setups. He's been using the jab. Like, I was doing some film study watching his plant fight. I saw a little bit of the Triple G trilogy fight. I saw a little bit of the John Ryder fight, just only because even though John Ryder doesn't fight anywhere similar to Charlo, I saw a little bit of it just to see the flaws of Canelo. And I think the major flaw there is just him getting burned out, him getting burned out, loading up on everything earlier in the fight, trying to get the stoppage, trying to show for the crowd. And it shows, So I don't know if Canelo is falling off. I don't know if he's past his prime. I don't know that for sure. It could be that, or it could be maybe strategically he's doing the wrong things in these fights, which causes him to burn out in the later half of these fights. I don't know. But you got to remember, and with all the scrutiny that he gets, he's fighting consistently the best fighters in the world, and he's fought that. He's done that for years now, since at 54, fighting Cotto, fighting guys like Lara, fighting Triple G 3 times, Bivol, Kovalev, Danny Jacobs. The list goes on, and names go on and on. Plant, undefeated fighters. These are top-tier fighters. And even though Charlo has fought good fighters at 154, he's fought some of the best only at 154, where Canelo has gone up, fighting bigger fighters that are even more talented at a bigger weight. So with all the scrutiny, we got to remember who Canelo is fighting every single time. These guys are durable. John Ryder might not be the most talented fighter, but the guy is very, very durable. You know what I mean? Who has stopped him since, in recent years? The better fighters that he's fought wasn't able to stop him or come close to it. He's fought big guys like Callum Smith. He fought Danny Jacobs. He's fought some good fighters. And he looked good against all of them, So with that being said, you got to remember Canelo has been more consistent as far as like the level of opposition. It's been on a way higher scale than who Jermell has fought up to this point. Castano was very, very good fighter, and I thought that at the time that Castano was the other best fighter at 154 outside of Jermell Charlo at that time. But Castano is like the average fighter that Canelo has faced over the years, and Canelo has fought better fighters than Castano over the years. So when it comes to Canelo not looking so good and all of that stuff, I'm not really sure, but we got to wait and see. But Canelo is a very calculated pressure fighter, like I said earlier. Doesn't throw as many combinations, but he make the shots count. He has a phenomenal left hook. He goes to the body extremely well, okay? And he walks you down. He fights out of a high guard, but is a very active high guard. He does move his head. He hasn't moved his head much recently. Okay, recently, his head movement hasn't been the greatest. All right, I thought there were times where he displayed better head movement, and like the Danny Jacobs fight. You know what I mean? I thought he displayed better defense in some of those fights. And I thought there were fights where he was more calculated, like Amir Khan. I know a lot of people don't care about the fight or didn't care for the fight at that time because they felt like Khan was too small. But Khan was still very fast. He was very talented, and he did well in those earlier rounds outboxing Canelo. But when I'm talking about him being calculated, meaning you're doing well against me, but I'm setting up the big blow. I'm setting up the shot that's going to take you out. And that's what I mean. Yeah, you take some rounds off because you're trying to find a perfect shot to land. And when he caught Khan clean, Khan went to sleep. And that's what I mean about being calculated, So I think Canelo needs to lay off with just leading with power shots, coming forward and is doing bombs over and over again. And pick the shots set up the shots a little better. Go back to using your jab. We saw him jab a lot against Triple G in that rematch they had. Triple G, one of the best jabbers in the world, and Canelo was going jab to jab with him. Now he wasn't beating Triple G with the amount of jabs, but the amount of jabs that Canelo was throwing in that fight, we haven't seen that in the recent fights. It didn't even exist in a Bevo fight, and in the following fights like Triple G3 and who else? John Ryder, we didn't see much of it. So I think he's been focused on stalking. He's great at stalking. He did it with Kovalev. He did it with Plant, fighters that moved well and kept distance. But once he got to them, he was able to destroy them. Once he got to them, he worked and picked them apart until he finally got them out of there. But we got to get him to start throwing his jab because Jermell Charlo has a good jab. He does move well, and he needs to set up the shots instead of just relying on fighting in the high guard and just trying to slip his way in. Use a jab. Go back to using that head movement that we know you have. He needs to do these things in order to get in the right position to hurt Charlo or win these rounds, land the big shots. Now, as far as my prediction and where I see how this fight playing out, doing the film study, going back, watching Charlo, watching Canelo, when I watched the two, overall, Canelo's a better talent to me. You know what I mean? I think Charlo, when I look at him and when I look at him, the way he fights compared to who Canelo has faced, I don't think Charlo is bringing anything that I haven't seen Canelo deal with before. I've seen Canelo deal with a whole bunch of different styles. The experience level, same age, but the experience level is on a different level, And I've seen Canelo adjust to each and every one of these fighters for the most part. Maybe not so much recently, but for the most part, I've seen him adjust to everybody he's faced. And I just think that Canelo is going to be harder to hit. He's going to be more accurate with his shots and landing them. Him going to the body with heavy hooks. Charlo has displayed great durability up to this point. He has a phenomenal chin. You know what I mean? But I haven't seen someone go to his body like that, consistently. As you're moving, you're going to move. But Charlo is going to be getting hit. Which direction he's going to be moving. If he's going to move to his right, he's going to be getting clipped with left hooks to the body. If he moves to the left, he's going to get caught with right hands to the body from Canelo. Canelo's going to be jabbing. He's going to be throwing bombs at the body. And if there's periods in this fight that Charlo's back is against the ropes, Charlo is going to be in trouble, because Canelo wants you there. And in those exchanges, I think defensively, Canelo keeps it much tighter when he's hooking. He has shorter arms, and I think he would be better. Similar to Castano, but not many punches going to be thrown. Canelo hits much harder than Castano, and Canelo is more accurate with what he's throwing. Castano was taking a lot of punishment in that rematch that I can't see Canelo just getting hit with 2-3 punches at a time like that. You might catch him with one, but you're just going to be get hit for left and right hooks over and over like the way Castano did in some of those exchanges in a rematch. I don't see that happening with Canelo. I think Canelo is going to be walking him down. Everybody's talking size, but Canelo is going to be walking him down, and he's going to be looking like the bigger fighter, walking Jermell Charlo down. Regardless of how Charlo looks, Canelo's going to be walking him down. I think he's going to land the more effective punches in between the exchanges. And I think he's just going to overall, I think he's just going to be the better fighter. I think Charlo, if there isn't any knockdown or any knockout or anything like that, and this fight goes the distance, I can see Canelo burning out and Charlo picking up and showing moments in the later half of the fight. But will it be enough to beat Canelo on the cards? I don't think so. And I don't say that, I'm not saying that in a sense that I think Charlo's going to get robbed or anything like that. It could happen, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is whatever Charlo does, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think he would really need to hurt Canelo. And again, Canelo is one of the most durable fighters in all of boxing, not just at 154, but in general. He is the most durable fighter that we've seen over the years. You know, one of the most durable fighters. He's taken punches from really bigger guys with bigger punches than Jermell Charlo. And he's proven to be that. So I think logically, I would have to go with Canelo Alvarez because I think he is the better talent to me. He has the better experience than me. And I think he is adjusted to this weight for a long time now. You know, he belongs at 168. Whether he's small or not, he belongs at this division. And Charlo, I just don't know what he can really do. He's going up to 168. He's passing 160 to go to 168 to fight the very best fighter up there and one of the best fighters in the world. And I just can't go with him. You know, it doesn't matter who I want to win. I want Charlo to win. I'm a fan. I'm a supporter of him. That's my guy. But Canelo's too talented to me, and I think Canelo's going to win. Whether it's going to be straight up or knockout, that I can't predict. That it really depends. Charlo's been durable his whole career, so I don't know that. You know, and Canelo hasn't stopped the last 3 opponents he's faced. You know, so I don't know that. But I think Canelo is going to win this fight. If I were a betting man for this fight, I would pick Canelo to win straight up, not by knockout or anything like that. I will probably in a sense that in a scenario where the fight is actually very competitive and Charlo is actually winning in my eyes, in most people's eyes, and even maybe to the judges' eyes, if he's winning, barely winning, I don't know if it's going to be enough where it's clear enough where I can say Charlo won the fight. But I will probably put a little bit money down on a draw just in case there's some sort of controversy. I know Canelo has, and I'm talking for the politics standpoint, I know Canelo has something like 3 fights on this deal with PBC. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a rematch if the fight is controversial or something like that. But again, I just see Canelo, if Canelo fought the guys that Charlo faced, Canelo would have beat them better. And I know Styles make, I'm not trying to go off the triangle theory, but Canelo has just done more in his career. You know, and Charlo moving up 2 divisions up. It's not like a new way moving up to fight Fulton or anything like that. It's just Canelo. I don't think Charlo is better at Canelo. Even if they're equal size, I still think Canelo's more talented. All right, so that is my prediction. I have Canelo winning this one. Again, I will be here Saturday covering the fight live, so be sure you subscribe. Be sure you be here Saturday because this will be the best commentary, live commentary on YouTube. Saturday night, we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys there. Peace.